Hello, and welcome back to the Chamber Vibes podcast. I'm your host, Foster Garrett, Director of Marketing and Events for the Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. Let me just give you a rundown of what's going on. So every week, I interview a different chamber member to find out what they do and why they do it. Recorded right here in beautiful Bedford, Virginia, broadcasting on Grove Street FM, and brought to you by Media Squatch. Before we get to the actual podcast, though, I do want to tell you about some of our upcoming chamber events. We have just recently closed out our June events with the cleanup event that we held with the town of Bedford on this past Saturday. We collected over 220 pounds of trash, and that's just with what we were able to keep up with. So thank you guys so much. Keep an eye out for more information about our next cleanup, which will probably be in October. But the July calendar is very full, and I'll just quickly run through this. On July 12th, we're having a ribbon cutting for Confident Equipment, which is our area's newest Kubota dealership located in Montvale. So it's really exciting to have something new coming to that area, and we'll be celebrating on July 12th at noon with Kubota of Lynchburg. On July 16th, we actually have a really cool virtual lunch and learn that will only be around 30 minutes at lunchtime. And if you are a business with 2 to 50 employees, maybe this is a great option for you to offer some healthcare benefits to yourself and your employees. So earlier this year, the Virginia Chamber got Wise Choice Healthcare Alliance passed through the Virginia Bureau of Insurance, and it is now a great offering for small businesses who are a member of a local chamber. So you can get health insurance for your business through us. And this is a great way to come learn about it. So go on our website. I'll drop all the information at the end of this to come learn about this great opportunity. On July 18th, we have a Chamber 101 that'll happen in Manita Library that afternoon. So if you're looking to brush up on your chamber benefits through your membership, come on out to that. And then lastly, in July, we have a Live at 5 evening networking event with Woods Goods and Mercantile on July 25th. And Woods Goods is an amazing new store that's been in our area for almost a year. They're located on 460 right past the Bedford YMCA, and they are perhaps the most splendid store in the Blue Ridge in their very own words. But they have all sorts of great things there, so join us for an evening of networking, refreshments, and shopping. But that's all for July. You can find all of our events on our calendar on bedfordareachamber.com. And at the very end, I'll drop our phone number so you can call us and ask some questions about these programming and other things. So listen all the way through. But without further ado, please allow me to introduce today's guest, Mike Schmitt with J.GALT.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, glad to be here. Good to catch up with Woody again, too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I love talking to Woody. Well, Mike, before we kind of get into the question and answer, can you just give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah,
and
sure.
kind of segue into how you became involved with J.GALT.
Yeah, so I've been I guess you'd call it a serial entrepreneur for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was restaurants or I had my own medical device distributorship where we did sales, install, service, the whole nine yards. Some IT consulting work, and then ultimately a tech startup. So I've kind of had the wide swath of business experience, entrepreneurship, everything from bootstrapping and doing all that on your own to the angel investing and doing Shark Tank pitches to to Silicon Valley millionaires. Kind of done it all. So and the reason why J.GALT was so appealing to me is because we directly support or answer one of the largest issues that small business owners, entrepreneurs face, which is how do they get access to money?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody bootstraps when they start their business for the most part. But small business owners have this horrible, and I'm guilty of it too, tendency to continue to use their personal credit and finances to fund the business throughout the life of the business. And that creates all kinds of problems, creates enormous amounts of risk, and it limits their ability to grow and scale. And it really harms their ability to ultimately sell the business when they, want to retire or cash out. So we help them establish corporate credit. on their EIN number, which is attached to their LLC or their S Corp. That way, when they need money to fund their business, they're not putting their personal credit at risk. And the dirty little secret in corporate credit that most small business owners don't know is that there's 10 to 100 times more funding available to them with established corporate credit, with excellent corporate credit. But it really takes the education and a process to do that, and we kind of take all the guesswork out of that for the business.
Yeah, and when we've talked before, I don't know, would it be accurate to say that there's nobody else that really does what you guys do?
I think there's a lot of how would we say it, YouTube
Yeah.
experts out there trying to sell stuff and clickbait stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen a program or anybody out there that does what we do in North America, and especially not a proven system with a 14-year track record
Mm-hmm.
of getting it done. I think that ultimately, I guess the best, how would you say it, compliment to our business is that now Dun & Bradstreet is actually referring business to us,
Oh, that's awesome.
because they at one point did have a credit building program that they
Mm-hmm.
had built. They sold it to a company. That company did some unethical things.
Mm-hmm.
Dun & Bradstreet bought it back to protect the name, and then they've pretty much mothballed it because they don't want to deal with the hassles of being on both sides of the coin, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They have businesses coming to them and saying, why am I getting turned down for these things? And they're like, well, we can't really tell you because these people report to us anonymously,
Yeah.
and we kind of can't give up our trade secrets, et cetera, our
Mm-hmm.
confidentiality agreements with the people doing business with us. So we've actually built partnerships with them where now they're referring business to us. And so, I think that kind of speaks to what we do and why it's so powerful.
Definitely. And when we've talked to, I know that when I've talked to small business owners in the past, I think a lot of people start with a dream
Mhm.
and then they kind of figure out the business as they go along.
Yeah. Well, and I think it speaks to something else too. It's that everybody starts with a dream.
Mm.
And then I think the reality and the grind sometimes knocks them down.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they get kind of caught up in the thick of thin things. And we always talk about, in business leadership and business coaching, are you working in the business or are you working on the business? That's a
Mm-hmm.
big difference. And a lot of the reason why business owners get stuck in the business is because cash is so tight,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times revenue's great, sales are good, cash is so incredibly tight. And it's ultimately that cash flow issue that we're really solving with the credit establishment, because it's kind of like a chicken or the egg thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, i- if you're a business that requires a lot of capital on the front end to do work, let's say tradespeople, right? They need to go out and purchase materials to be able to do their work. Well, they're always chasing money, and they've upfronted the cost of the job. And so from a cash flow perspective, they're always cash poor, even if they're doing positive revenue. Where that becomes really hairy is it's great if everybody's paying their bills on time. That's keeping your fingers crossed that that's happening, and that your sales are always growing and or are constantly static.
Mm-hmm.
That's not reality. There are great times, there's slow times, there's catastrophic events that have nothing to do with anything related to your business, things like COVID, things like 2008. I mean, we don't know what kind of happenings can happen outside of our control. And when you've used your personal credit and finances to fund the business, you, in essence, do not have any cushion, because once that's tapped out, you're out. You establish corporate credit on your EIN, the business has an established credit limit, and then the business owner kind of has a choice to make. If things go really bad, right, worst case scenario
Mm-hmm.
game, they can declare bankruptcy on that business and be able to get out without the personal guarantees, protect themselves. That's great. or they can make the decision to actually utilize their personal credit at that point, right? So they kind of have an extra buffer if they choose to fund the business. But that's all playing like the negative Nelly part of this, right? Like that's if things go bad. I think what is more common is that you've got small business owners that are doing really well. They do really great work. And the problem is when they want to scale, when they want to put a couple more trucks on the road, when they want to grow and add a few more employees, all of a sudden they kind of hit a ceiling because they've tapped out their availability using their personal credit. And that's just kind of the difference between personal credit and business credit. That I think is so confusing for people because I think most people understand like their FICO score, usually within about 30 to 50 points, they kind of know where they're at. But the way that personal credit works is so backwards for business because what they do is they don't want to see overutilization. If you get above 30% utilization debt to income, all of a sudden everybody starts running away from you. Right.
Yeah.
And they want to start putting limits on you. Banks get skittish. Everybody, even established businesses that have positive relationships with their banks, all of a sudden, when everything's tied to them personally, their banks will kind of start pulling back on the availability of, revolving lines of credit and things like that can help them manage their cash flow. Whereas like business credit, when you have corporate credit, it works the exact opposite way. Vendors and issuers of credit want to see utilization. They'd love to see like 80% utilization. They want you spending money because ultimately they can't make money unless you're spending money, right? So the utilization part kind of works in inverse. And then ultimately the other deciding factor is just paying your bills on time. So it's interesting with corporate credit, they don't look at your P&L. They don't look at your EBITDA. They don't look at your balance sheet. They're really looking at, if I issue you this credit, are you going to use it? And do you pay your bills on time? And so again, we help them on that process. We use a strategy of trade lines and a relationship on our platform where J.GALT is in essence like a membership organization with our software as a service company, though we have a member delight team that, kind of holds their hand through that whole process. And then we have about 600 different vendors and issuers of credit that have access to those 50,000 members. But to get that access, they have to give us two really important pieces of information: their credit approval criteria in writing in advance, and which business credit bureaus that they report to. Well, that takes all the guesswork out. We know where our members are at from a standpoint of where they exist today from a corporate credit standpoint. And so we can recommend them to apply for different trade lines that we already know they're going to be approved for, right? So that they don't ever have to worry about being denied. They don't ever have to wait 6 to 12 months to reapply, all that kind of rigmarole. And we can build a blended strategy that hits all the different business credit bureaus. Most people know Dun & Bradstreet. Very few people know that Experian has a side for business and Equifax has a side for business, though they don't communicate with the personal. So we want to make sure we're hitting all three because we do not know, from a standpoint of down the road, which credit bureau will the lender that you want to work with pull from, right? So we want to make sure we're building a strategy like that. And usually it starts with, small net 30-day accounts with smaller vendors, buying office supplies through Quill, buying packaging supplies and the massive catalog of Uline. Like Uline sells everything. You can get 30-day accounts with them on just the business, on the EIN number, and start utilizing that business-based credit, paying your bills on time, and start building that corporate credit rating. As that kind of grows and you spend a couple months in that first phase of those smaller accounts, you can get approved for larger types of accounts, revolving accounts, retail credit cards, things like that. Ultimately, where we want to take our members is in business credit, it's kind of a different scale. So the FICO scale is 350 to 900. The business scale is 0 to 100. We want to get all of our members, and we do deliver this to all of our members, is getting them to an 80 credit score or higher on the business credit, reports. Ultimately, that opens the doors to them to getting unsecured revolving lines of credit just on the business, equipment financing, PO-based funding, AR-based funding, creative, all different kinds of creative
Everything.
lending. It's kind of the promised land from our perspective for small business. And again, all of this is without personal guarantees. It's without using their personal credit checks. So ultimately, it's kind of almost like that financial freedom
Mm-hmm.
aspect for the business.
I think that's a lot of information, first of all.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't vomit all over you there,
It's
but
okay.
I
I
get
was
excited.
I know, but it's so cool to just hear kind of like a bit of what the program with you guys looks like.
Yeah,
And to kind of be worked through that, because I mean everything you say like makes sense.
right.
But if you don't know, you don't know. But if you don't know how to go about it, that's another thing. And also the time aspect of it with
Sure.
small business owners. I think going back to cash flow and just not being able to have cash, it's really sad to me. As a chamber person, I get to know a lot of different businesses. And there are some businesses that the community absolutely loves and they show up for them when they need it. But it doesn't, just because you're maybe an organization with a high profile in the community doesn't mean that you're necessarily hitting all of your goals and making money off your business. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that. And it's hard to see that, but there I think a lot of people also they're wanting to scale up, and they'll do amazingly like for 3 months, and then they'll go 3 months without any business at all. And it's just one of those things, what do I do? A lot of people that have been in business for, 20, 30 years, they figured it out. They know what their cash flow looks like usually. They know if this happens, oh, I do this. But when you're just starting out and you're getting to know your business,
Right.
you have no idea where to start.
I can say that personally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think when I learned all of this, I was kind of viscerally upset, because this was my life,
Yeah.
right? And good, bad, and different. I mean, I've had some significant success. I've had some pretty epic failures, which, that I call that paying tuition, right? But those scars don't always heal, and some are deeper than others. And I'll just speak to it. Our company was truly founded 3 years ago because our CEO had enough.
Mm,
He saw what happened during COVID when 1.6 million small businesses just disappeared, and he had like PTSD from 2008.
yeah.
He has been a very successful businessman for most of his life. Really was successful in his 20s in the health and fitness industry back in the 80s,
Oh, wow.
and then kind of leveraged that into a bunch of different businesses over the years. But when 2008 happened, two of his very dearest childhood friends lost everything. And I don't mean to get dark on this, but I think it speaks to a specific point.
Oh, absolutely.
One of those gentlemen was a real estate investor, lost everything. Our CEO literally took him and his family into his home because he had lost everything. And weeks later, he shot himself in the head.
Oh, wow.
The other friend, the same way, he just hadn't moved him into his house. It happened to one of my best friends last August.
Mm,
The stakes, I think, are hard to explain, I think, for people,
yeah, definitely.
because most small business owners have an abundance mindset. They think they're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I'm guilty of that myself, right? But when hard times hit, and sometimes completely outside of your control, you can lose your way. And we don't want to see that. I mean, for us, that's our mission. We don't call what we do sales. We call what we do rescues.
Mm,
And it's interesting that we're in Lynchburg, the home of, Private Desmond Doss. But, when we have sales meetings and talk about business, it's like, can you get one more? Can you just save one more? That's really kind of how we go about what we do. So I think that's really, the heart of what we want to do. But ultimately, kind of circling back to the very first comment you made about dreamers, we want to empower business owners to start dreaming again because they have an incredible capacity to turn everything around. You know, like we're seeing like some interesting things with the economy right now. It's not all sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. Inflation is pretty tight. You know, I think everybody's kind of on pins and needles right now about what's happening. It's my opinion that the only way we figure this out is we're gonna have to grow our way out of it because we have too many fixed expenses as a society. And there's only one way you can grow out of it. And that's your number one driver has to grow, and that's small business. When a small business goes from 1 employee to 2 employees to 4 employees, they've just grown at, 200%, 400%, 1,000%. Well, we can see a lot more small businesses grow like that than we can see Walmart grow at 7. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's the force multiplier we need to see from a macro standpoint. But how do we get there? We need to see small business owners be able to invest in their business and do what they do best. And we can do that best by getting them availability of funding and know that they have the ability to fund the expansions they want to make, the dreams they want to chase. And we want to give them the tools and resources that Wall Street has always enjoyed and bring that right here to Main Street. So the credit building is only part of what we do. That's really just that's kind of the foundation, because it's, I think, the thing that we can do the quickest, if you will, to make a big difference in the business.
So walk us through then, what are some of the other things you do?
Yeah.
And how long does it typically take somebody to hit that 80%?
Yeah. So the average journey, and it's a wide berth because every business is so different, right? If they're a business that is very capital intensive, meaning they spend a lot of money, the journey doesn't take as long because they're being able to utilize credit quicker, pay their bills quicker, utilize more, pay more, and it accelerates. It's like a force multiplier. So things like trucking companies where they're spending $40,000 a month on diesel fuel. Well, we have outstanding relationships with all the fleet card issuers. Nice. So we can get them EIN based fleet cards, and boy, their journey may only take 6 months, 8 months.
Wow.
If they're a small solopreneur type business that doesn't spend a lot of money, maybe it takes 14 months. It may take a little bit longer because they don't spend as much money. But that's where we get creative and try to figure out, okay, is labor their number one expense? Okay, well, we have a company that we have found in North America that does payroll, and they report payroll for the member to the business credit bureaus. So you're just paying your people, but that's still an accounts payable, and they're going to show that you're paying that on time. So lots of different ways to skin that cat, but that's one of the aspects we do to take them down that journey, accelerate that journey. But you said, what other things can we do? I try not to interject this too early in the process with the credit building with our members, because it can sometimes be a shiny red ball, get them off track. But usually once they get a few months down the road and they're comfortable with the credit building software and working with our team, we like to introduce cash flow mapping. And you were talking about cash flow. Our cash flow mapping software that's free for our members, it's very granular, meaning it really gets down to the nitty gritty of all their fixed and variable expenses, but it's very intuitive. And we usually have them work with whoever's doing their books, their bookkeeper, accountant, whatever, get all of that information populated. But ultimately, the cash flow mapping software is there to allow them to start dreaming, right? It allows them, because we're going to get them shiny new credit, guaranteed. But we don't want that shiny new credit burning a hole in their pocket. We want them to be able to know, what kind of investments can I make in my company? And based on that, how does it affect my cash flow? Why does that matter? Well, if they can afford another van on the road and another tech, another truck on the road and another, technician for their business, that's great. But what kind of top line revenue do they have to capture to make sure that their cash doesn't, take a big hit with that additional expense. Maybe they should be calling Woody and getting some marketing and advertising going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, those are things the pragmatic things that we help them understand. And most of the small business owners, I'm just telling you, they do accounting. And accounting is great, but that's rear view mirror. That's the past.
Yeah.
Usually when you start asking them, how do you plan for the future? How do you get into the numbers of planning? What I used to call pro forma work, they start glazing over. They have lots of dreams. They don't know how to realize them.
Yeah.
And the biggest part of that is fear, right? Fear comes from ignorance. Ignorance comes from just not knowing, right?
I'm going to stop you for a second because I've been thinking about this as you've been talking, and I finally have found the words for it. Not only do you guys do business development, a lot of what you do is just business education.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, there are only a few different outlets for people to turn to when it comes to their business. And only a couple of them might actually work for them in their personal situation. But I think a lot of people don't, when they think about somebody that's on their side, they think of business coach, which is not quite what you guys are. I think there's a little bit of that with the development, but a lot of this is just, this is how you can succeed. This is the process for which works for us and works for how many businesses have you guys helped?
Oh, like I said, we've got 50,000 members.
Yeah.
Now they're all at different phases of their journey. But again, we've never not taken somebody to that tier 4 credit, that 80 credit score, in the history of our company. So, it's not that that it's, like I said, it's just that time period. And if any, it's kind of like this. All diets work. All exercise programs work. It's really about adherence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet the diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry because everybody gets on Instagram and they look at those pictures and they go, you can lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Just look at me. And everybody gets their credit cards out, right? Everybody wants a quick fix. That's not reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard in our business sometimes because you have to tell the business owner, look, you're going to have to eat your green beans.
Mm-hmm.
If you are serious about doing this and changing the trajectory of your future, you're going to have to eat your green beans. You got and sometimes they're ready and sometimes they're not. And it's my job to get them to across that starting line. In essence, I get them across the starting line of understanding the power of this, the difference this makes to your business. It's almost like I have to paint a picture. Imagine in 1 year, if you had access to all the money you needed to run your business, grow, and scale, know that you had access to it, that you no longer had any personal guarantees on anything attached to your business, that you'd have all these tools at your disposal, a team at your disposal. The other things we provide are like fractional CFO help, MBAs, fractional accounting help, attorney help. Those are things that are at their fingertips. They have the email addresses and cell phone numbers of the people on our team. They can be reaching out and work on that. That's all part of what we do because we're very, very, very passionate about, like I said, changing the trajectory of small business from a macro standpoint in America. I would say one of the last things we do, and when you and I talked about this on the Mike Show a little bit when we did that a while back, is about business succession.
Yes.
Right? All small business owners have that dream of that John Wayne moment where they're riding off into the sunset with that check, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it's if you personally, your social security number is the funding mechanism for the business, how much is the business really worth without you in it? I don't think most small business owners really even understand that when you go back to the education thing. They don't see that. As soon as I say it, light bulbs start going off. But they don't it's like, oh my gosh, well, what do I do? I want to sell the business next year. Okay. Now we go back to the whole planning, being intentional, following the plan. I help a lot of small business owners with the concept of succession planning. Are you going to sell this to Junior? Well, what's Junior's credit look like? Okay, that might be a problem. Okay, if you want to sell to an outside investor, okay, again, if we've built all these trade lines, all these revolving lines of credit, all this ready access to capital on the EIN number of the business, and again, you do this intentionally, you plan. Maybe it means you have to restructure the company. Maybe you can't be a single member LLC. Maybe you need to change the structure of your business, but you're able to do it as a stock sale. Then all of that credit, all that availability of capital flows through to the new owner of the business. Now, how much more is that person willing to spend for a turnkey business with hundreds of thousands of dollars of working capital available at their fingertips day one? If that's not compelling enough for most small business owners to not want to try to do this, I don't know what is, because that's literally might add another zero to the check.
Yeah. That just gave me goosebumps a little bit, because I almost think that people are intimidated by what you do and what you tell them, because it almost sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, and I've had to do a lot of legwork with the bookkeeping and accounting, community, because again, this is so foreign, so new, so kind of different.
Yeah.
It's just a different paradigm, that they immediately think it's a scam.
Yeah.
Because again, everybody's out there trying to scam people.
They are.
That really it does. You kind of have to take them through the whole. And sometimes I feel bad because I do have to kind of give them the whole 50-pound bag of content. But that's typically, again, because it's something so new. It's something that no one else has done, to help them understand that, like, not only is this possible, but here's exactly how we do it. Step by step by step by step by step. And it's a 7-step process. Like, it literally it's dictated out.
Yeah.
It's got its own, it's part of our agreement we give all of our members, is we literally dictate it out in writing exactly what's going to happen. It's not, there's no surprise. This is exactly from step to step to step what's going to happen. And here's going to be the end result. But I think one additional thing, and I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag, but I'm going to, most people will probably listen to this later, so it probably won't matter. One of the aspects of the business that I'm the most excited about that's going to be coming out for small business owners is we've been focused so much on the cure, right? Which is get them to that 80 credit score, get them to tier 4 credit, get them to untethered with their personal credit. That in some ways we lost sight of, hey, that's a 9 to 12 month journey. What if they need money right now?
Yeah.
Right? What if there's an opportunity at their fingertips today to land a job, go bid on a project that they're perfectly positioned for, or maybe they've got something floating out there that someone has asked them to do and they just don't have the working capital to do it. Those are the types of opportunities that we are now going to help small business owners capture. And so we've actually started a new company called J.GALT Capital. And ultimately what we're going to do is provide them with funding. Now it's going to be what we call hybrid financing, meaning it's still going to be tied to them personally. So it's not the cure, it's a Band-Aid. But it could be a very big Band-Aid to the tune of, $300,000 or something,
Absolutely.
where they could have working capital at their fingertips very soon. And what we're trying to do is be very strategic about that. Again, we're not there to throw money at bad, but where there's really significant opportunities for them to make investments in their business, we want to help. And what we're hoping to do is probably by the fall, that membership is going to really mean something. There used to be the joke with the American Express card, membership has its benefits.
Yeah.
By the fall, it's really going to matter, because by the fall, we're hoping to actually roll all of that in where there will not be any fees attached to any of the lending.
Wow.
Which would be, for businesses, let me tell you something. I see so many small business owners that manage their cash flow with their credit cards, their personal credit cards, that they're paying 15 to 25% on. And that's their cash flow management strategy month to month. Now, I'm not sitting there judging or throwing stones at that small business owner, because you know what? I've done it too. Okay. But that's also not a recipe for success. When there's the option, there's other options out there, both for short term, and we already know what we can do long term to kind of change that. And that's the wickedness that is in this business for small business. There's predatory lending practices. And ultimately, what happens with small business owners is this: they get in a pinch, they get in a pickle, and then they're willing to do whatever to make
Whatever
it work.
it takes.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't want to say they'll make a deal with the devil, but sometimes they will. And those are the really critical business mistakes. When businesses fail and they go back and do the autopsy, usually it has something to do with that.
Yeah.
Like I was in a pickle and I did this thing and it was, gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. That's the kind of stuff we want to keep them from doing.
Yeah.
And to have the availability of other options that are at their fingertips, that they're knowledgeable, that they know are there, so that they don't make those types of decisions.
That's awesome, first of all.
I'm excited about
that's a really great addition, because that is like exactly how you said, like you've got the end goal, but in the meantime, what now?
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is, when I get introduced places, they're like, "Oh, it's the business credit guy,"
Yeah.
and they're like, "How much money can you get me?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not a lender." Now I can say, "Well, now I am a lender," right? So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I think for a lot of small business owners, that is a really, man, it's a hat in your hand thing when you're going and trying to get money for your business. It's, you're kind of begging banks to do business with you, and it's a humbling experience. And then they want to get into your personal stuff.
Yeah.
And then they want to scrutinize you personally. I've been there. That's a really humbling experience. I want to keep people from having to go through all that garbage, because part of the concept of what we do at GALT is you build this whole profile with us. We know you, and you're an intentional business owner that's taking time to do this the right way. Who wouldn't want to lend money to that type of a person? Right? That person's got either they've got it or they're getting their stuff together. And that ultimately is what we want that membership to mean.
That's awesome. I love everything that you guys do, and I'm so glad that you guys are members with us, because there are just so many, like, also with us, like, we get to know people really, really well, and there's limits to what we as a chamber can do, because we're not here to stick our fingers in your pies.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
you gotta be careful.
Right? But we can always refer somebody that, like you, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And you're an excellent resource to the Bedford area. So thank you for wanting to do business here.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it doesn't feel like work. I know that's kind of like a cliche these days, but it's real for me. I geek out on business. I love talking business. I love talking to entrepreneurs and seeing what they're doing and what they got planned for the future. And, I love that process of that dreaming, coming up with business plans. How do we make it work? How do we do that stuff? So for me, whether they ever ended up doing business with me or not, I like to be part of the process, because if I don't know, I know I have 30 years of business, experience of other people that they could talk to.
Yeah.
And in the world that I live in now and the network I roll in now, I have so many friends that are fractional CFOs, fractional bookkeepers, MBAs, people that, do it, great business attorneys, all these people who can provide services to small businesses, because that's all I do now. For me, I just want to be that resource. Even if now's not the right time to do the J.GALT thing, I still want to be that resource, because ultimately I want them there a year from now.
Yeah.
And succeeding one way or the other. Because ultimately, you even look at Bedford itself. How many empty storefronts are there?
Oh, too many. And it's always,
what I mean? I don't mean to be,
No, it's
you drive
honest.
through Bedford and you're like, this is such a quaint, beautiful town. I love this town. That's got to change. Well, that has to happen incrementally, right? We got to start making an impact now and start building the future storefronts that are going to fill those spots. And they've got to have money to do it. They got to have working capital to do it. And so that is what I want my contribution to be.
Well, that's amazing. And I am going to quickly plug an event that we're holding because
Sure.
I think you make a great point that even if people don't do, in your words, the J.GALT thing,
Yeah.
you're still an amazing resource. And as you've like said before, like with small business owners, there's a lot of pain points with their journey, and there's a lot of things that they've learned. And I think that putting everybody in a room, honestly, I think it's amazing to put everybody in a room and just talk it out. Speak with new business owners, people that maybe want to start a business but are scared to,
Yeah.
people that are trying to scale up but they just don't think that they can, and talk it all out. Talk about what worked, what doesn't, why they might need to do certain things a little bit differently, and just opening each other's eyes to how we can advance individually and how that collectively impacts our community as a whole.
And I find that small business owners are probably the most giving
Mm-hmm.
mentors in the world, myself included, because do you think I want you to pay the tuition I have? Like, that's so painful.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want anybody to experience what I've had to go through at times, you know? And I think most other small business owners are the same way. They've dealt with that.
Mm-hmm.
They would love to help others. I think the hardest thing about that, though, is we're all so darn busy.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. It's so hard to get business owners to just, hey, can you just put a pin in it for just a second? And it's hard because they're just moving so fast. But I think any ability to get people together,
Mm-hmm.
the mind share, the network, the ability to share other resources. Because again, if you don't know that you don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And there's a lot of really great businesses in this area. And,
Oh yeah.
And when you see people that have had that success, there's a lot of wisdom attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have our business awards open right now, and the small businesses that have been nominated, it is just so cool talking to them and getting to know their stories, because a lot of them started with like one person just doing their thing, and now they've grown to 30 people or however many, and it's just incredible. And those are the type of people I want in the room.
Yeah.
And we'll be having an event to do just exactly what we just talked about on August 15th.
Yeah.
And you guys can learn more about that on bedfordareachamber.com, and I'll be posting about it and sending out information about it as we get closer.
I'm really excited about that event. We're going to do it in the evening, and which I think is maybe a little bit different than people are used to, right? But I want to do it in the evening because I think maybe we can get more business owners to attend. I think it'd be hard for them during the workday.
Yeah.
To pull themselves away.
That's always the thing with small business owners is that they're running their small business all day.
Yeah.
And when they're off from work, oftentimes they're going home to be with their families. But come out to this.
Yeah.
I think it'd be definitely worth your time to at least stay for even just 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And hear what everybody has to say.
And I like the idea that, you know, you stressed we need to make this interactive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm all about that. You know, I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear the pain points, and I don't need to have all the solutions myself. There's a lot of other people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, what I just want to introduce is what we just talked about today, is introduce this concept, because it's a big, what are you talking about? You know, it's like your brain kind of explodes a little bit. So there's a degree of that, but I do want to introduce these concepts, have lots of conversations, and ultimately, look, let's start making an impact.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's start making a positive impact in the community here in Bedford and the surrounding area. Let's get these businesses, if they're growing, let's get them growing faster.
Mm-hmm.
If they're thinking about starting, let's be that gentle kick in the to get going. If they're hurting, let's find them a cure. You know, let's find them avenues by which we can help them not have something bad happen.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything else you want to add?
No,
How
I
to get
think
in
this has
touch with
been
you?
really great. Love it here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Woody. Appreciate your help.
Woody's in the corner saluting us.
Yes.
Well, Mike, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm always available. You can actually call me.
Mhm.
I'll give you my phone number. That's 419-206-6900. Call or text. But what I would definitely say is come to my website. I have my own website. It's J.GALT, JGALT.io/M Schmitt.
Nice.
And that takes you right to my website. You can look at all the information that I've just talked about. And it also has my calendar right there. So you can actually click on my calendar and schedule an appointment. I'm happy to talk to any small business owner out there about whatever they're going through.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Well, if anybody has any questions for the chamber, you can call us at 540-586-9401, or you can visit our website, bedfordareachamber.com, for information about our mission and the perks of becoming a member. And also on our website is a full business directory of our membership, which is helpful for finding all sorts of great things in the region, including J.GALT. But that's all for today. Thanks so much for listening, and keep an ear out for the next Chamber Vibes podcast.